Hello and welcome to another episode of Thick Slices and Deep Cuts. This evening I will be ranking the 7 studio albums of legendary Polish progressive metalers, progressive rockers. I'm talking about Riverside. I don't know if you can see that, but hopefully you can see that. And just for a little bit of additional help here, I've got some stuff there. But Riverside, I've wanted to rank this for a while, and really the only reason I waited is because I wanted to make sure I got this Lost and Found live in Tilburg delivered, and it finally came via USPS mail. It took like a month for something that should have taken 5 days. Anyway, we're listening to it right now. It was the concert from about 5 years ago, from October of 2015 in the Netherlands. It's pretty much the last thing to feature their late guitarist Peter Grudzinski, who had passed away in early 2016. But outside of him, they've had a pretty steady lineup pretty much all the way through. So I will say this: we got to rank 7 albums here, and it was painful to rank these because number 7 is a classic, number 6 is a classic. So it was a combination of, just my personal taste and what I think are classic albums, and you can't go wrong with any of these. I put my number 1 where it is just because I think of timing, the time in which I heard that album and what it means to me because of the memories I have attached to it. Same thing with my number 2. Same thing with my number 5. So it's just tough catalog to rank. You don't want to slide any of these classic albums, but Riverside are one of those bands that always put out quality material. Mario Studa is sort of the guy that runs the ship. He also does the Project Lunatic Soul, which I did a podcast of there, and I had the same problem where he has 7 Lunatic Soul albums, and they're all great, so it was tough to rank stuff at the bottom for that. So, but we'll just go ahead and get started here. So something has to come in at the bottom. So coming in at number 7, their most recent release from 2018, I have Wasteland. You can see a little 7 in there because that's their 7th album. I saw them on this tour in May of 2019 at Delmar Hall. They were very good. So I have an attachment to this album. I don't know. I have to rank something 7th. And while I think this is pretty much a classic album, I'm looking at all the other ones, and something has to, in the process of building this list, this just happened to find its way to the bottom. But I think there's an intro, and then you've got Acid Rain, which is really good, moody, good energy though to it, progressive. Veil of Tears is nice. Guardian Angel even has a touch of. So Peter Grudzinski has passed on at this point. So what's his name? Maciej Miller. I don't. These guys have Polish names. They're very tough to pronounce. But their new guitar player, Maciej. I don't know how much guitar work he did in the studio, but I do think he did some leads at least. And there's some good tones on Guardian Angel that are reminiscent of what Peter Grudzinski might do. But he's kind of missed on here. I feel like we're missing him on here, and that's probably ultimately why this one's coming in at number 7. Lament, they had a video for. That's probably your strongest track on here. The song Wasteland, the title track's 8.5 minutes. That's really good. The Struggle for Survival is a 9.5 minute instrumental. So that one is also pretty good. I think this album is pretty much classic Riverside. It's just maybe not as classic as all the other ones, and you're missing Peter Grudzinski. But man, that doesn't mean this isn't an excellent album. Produced by Magda and Robert Steinecki. I'm not sure how you pronounce their name, but basically Riverside, outside of one album, has done all of their albums, have had them produced and recorded with this husband and wife team in Warsaw, Poland. And same thing with Lunatic Soul. All the Lunatic Soul stuff is done with that same recording team. So there you go. Coming in at number 7, their most recent release from 2018, I have Wasteland. Man, coming in at number 6, this is another classic. Tough to rank this one this low, but I'm looking at what's ahead of it. And it's not that I rank these low, it's that they got shuffled down to this point. But coming in at number 6, I've got, from 2015, I've got Love, Fear, and the Time Machine. It's the last one with Peter Grudzinski. This one's cool too. This is probably their most positive, lightest sounding album. It's still got progressive moments, and it still gets a little hectic here and there, but for the most part, this is like a very positive, I think I was going to say it's self-reflective. I think almost everything Riverside does is in that vein. But, I think the guys, they're about my age. And I think at this point they were all turning 40 or so. So they're just kind of getting sentimental and kind of reflecting on what was life like when, how much simpler it was when we were 30 years ago or 20 years ago. Things like that. But, the opening track is positive and almost like, uplifting to a point. Under the Pillow, that song is called Lost, by the way, but Under the Pillow is a really catchy one. Addicted is a different kind of thing for them, different stylistically. Caterpillar and the Barbed Wire is cool. It's one of the more progressive ones. Saturate Me is probably the most progressive on here. Shorter one, Afloat. Oh, Discard Your Fear is a really cool, moody one. Found, the last track, is really good. Some of Peter Grudzinski's best soloing. Sounds very Pink Floyd-like. In fact, Riverside sound a lot like Pink Floyd a lot of the time. They also sound a lot like Porcupine Tree a lot of the time. But, Mariusz Duda has his own distinctive sound and style. And, Peter Grudzinski brought his own distinctive sound. And, so everybody's bringing their own thing to the table here. I think there are a couple songs on here that I should like more than I do. Towards the Blue Horizon is 8 minutes. It doesn't do a whole lot for me. It's pretty mellow. The song after that, Time Travelers, is 6 minutes and 42 seconds, and that doesn't do a ton for me either. But it's not to say that they're bad songs. But this is a heck of an album. It also has Disc 2, Day Session. It's just all of these sketches that the other three guys did. Michael Lepage is the keyboard player. It's the three of them minus Peter, I forget the drummer's last name, but Heavenland is cool, Return is cool, Aether, man, that is such a cool, hauntingly awesome song, Machines and Promise. So it's all these instrumental soundscapes that they like to do. And I think it's just left over from the fact that Mariusz was doing Lunatic Soul and Prague Riverside, and so you had these other things that just kind of didn't have a home. So they find their home is these bonus tracks on the second disc of Love Through and the Time Machine. So what a cool album. Tough to rank at 6. It's just a really good album. It's probably their lightest, most positive sounding album, but that's not to say it's not interesting. And it definitely has all the depth and layering to it. Some of Peter Grudzinski's most mature guitar playing. So there you go. Number 6 from 2015, Love, Fear, and the Time Machine. Okay, coming in at number 5, and I thought this was going to be like number 2 or 3 when I started this list, but when I started listening through the albums, I was putting stuff up ahead of it, ultimately. So, again, it's not that I'm ranking it 5, it's that it finds its way back to 5 by me picking other things, if that makes any sense. So coming in at number 5, their 4th album from 2009, I have Anno, Domini, High Definition. The only album they've ever recorded, whether it be Riverside or Lunatic Soul, that wasn't with the Magda and Robert team. They went to Holland, to the Netherlands, to record this. It has a very modern sounding production, which I think all their stuff now definitely has it, but at this particular time, everything sounded very computerized to the grid. It was a very, modern sounding album. I think we heard Hyperactive to start this. That opens this. Driven to Destruction is one of my favorites from them. It's a good, heavy, catchy one. Everything's heavy and catchy on here. Egoist, Hedonist is really good. It's almost like a dance beat to the prog. One of my favorite songs they've ever done is on here. It's got a breakdown that has this most beautiful sounding piano, and it's called Left Out. It's one of the coolest moments in Riverside's history, where they have this song that builds up. It's so progressive. It's over 10 minutes. It might be 12 minutes, but it just builds to this point where it breaks down and gets real dramatic and almost kind of quiet. This piano comes in. It's just incredible. And it finishes with Hybrid Times. I think this is number 5 just because it only has 5 tracks, and I think Hybrid Times is fine. It doesn't do a whole lot for me, but again, it doesn't make it a bad track. It just makes it a pretty good track. So you've still got, 4 good, awesome songs on. You've got some classic songs on here. Also, they must like the Netherlands, because mine has a bonus disc of Live in Amsterdam 2008, where they're covering stuff from their first 3 albums. So if you've never heard Riverside before, you can get this 4th album and then a live session of selections from their a live concert from selections from their first 3 albums. So this is another good quality purchase. So, you know, it's a classic. I wanted to rank it higher. I noticed it doesn't even have their logo on the cover. It's kind of a different thing for them. Their first 3 albums were kind of all linked together. They call it the Reality Dream Trilogy. And so after the first 3 albums, I think they really wanted to do something different stylistically. So they went to a different studio with a different producer, you know, different kind of cover art, no logo. So they were trying to do something a little bit different. And they did a heck of a job. Coming in at number 5 from 2009, their 4th album, I've got Anno Domini High Definition. Okay, coming in at number 4, I'm going to have to pull this out of this big boxy thing called Reality Dream Trilogy, which just folds on and on. Look at that. You ever see a CD fold that much? You got all these. Look at that. It's upside down, but you got six discs. So at number 4, I have. Well, it came out at the very end of 03, and I think 04 everywhere else, but I have their debut album from 03 called Out of Myself. This is an excellent album. They had a different keyboardist for this first album, but he was good. Jacek Melnicki, I guess. He was just on board for this album, but the reason I moved this up, I think originally I thought I was going to rank this one a little bit lower, just because of all the new stuff being so good. But then when I revisited it, what an incredibly strong and impressive debut album. I mean, the Riverside sound is already going and strong 1 album in. I mean, they didn't have one of those first albums where they're trying to work out the, everything. They've already got it. They're maybe a little more on the progressive metal end of things. They're maybe channeling a little bit of Dream Theater earlier in their career. But the Same Rivers classic, I mean, that is a classic long song. I don't know if it's like 12 minutes or something. Out of Myself is a cool, shorter one, title track. I believe Reality Dream is an instrumental. Loose Heart is really good, really catchy stuff. Reality Dream 2 is another instrumental. In Two Minds is so catchy. The Curtain Falls is dramatic, and it ends with Okay. So it's just, like I said, I was thinking this was going to come in at maybe number 6, and then I listened to it. I was like, this is all of the classic Riverside material. A lot of the classic Riverside is sitting on this very first album. And like I said, they've already got that sound is already there. So there you go. Coming in at number, what are we up to? Number 4. At number 4, I have their debut from 03. I've got Out of Myself. And so coming in at number 3, we're going to go back to this massive fold out, and we're going to go with their second album from 2005. I've got Second Life Syndrome. Yeah, there you go. Second Life Syndrome. I think this might be their most popular album to date. I went on Prague Archives, and not only did it have their strongest score, but it had the most reviews as well. So I'm thinking this is their most popular album. I mean, I have it at 3. So this is where I got on board with them. This is where I heard who they were. That they were, at that time, in 05, 06, I was definitely wanting to find progressive metal. And they fit the bill. And I guess early on they'd been touring with Dream Theater as well. So, but the first track is called After. The last track is called Before. I failed to mention on their most recent album, their first track is called The Day After, and their last track is called The Night Before, so that's a carryover from this album. Volt Face is this is a heavy album. This is probably their fastest, heaviest album. Their most progressive metal sounding album, because they've got fast things, it's real technical. Volt Face fits that. Conceiving You is just a really good ballad. I think we heard it earlier, but it's just really good songwriting. Second Life Syndrome has a moment about 7 minutes in or 6 minutes in or something where they break it down. It's so cool. It's just Marius doing cool vocals and playing this drifty bass line. It's really good. Artificial Smile's great. I Turned You Down is great. Reality Dream 3 is their best instrumental, I think, to date. It's Dream Theater-ish, but it's really good. Memorable. Dance with the Shadow is a big, dramatic, epic one, and then it finishes with Before. So their early music is just, they do not make a bad album. Everything that Marius and company put out is just so solid and so top-notch. In fact, I just did a review on Bolt Thrower right before this, and I switched shirts, and it was painful because they don't put out bad albums, and they had all these classics. I feel Riverside is the same way. Everything's a classic. Every album they release is a 9 out of 10. Everything's a 9 out of 10. So there you go. Coming in at number 3, I've got their second album from 2005. I have Second Life Syndrome. Okay. Coming in at number 2, and I really dig this album. Their 5th album from 2013, I've got Shrine of New Generation Slaves. If you take the first letter of each of those words, it's songs. Shrine of New Generation Slaves. This is a cool album. I feel like Marius was really doing the Lunatic Soul thing, and sometimes that sound finds its way onto here. Some of that cool, dark atmosphere finds its way onto this album. You've got New Generation Slave. It starts out, it almost sounds like a big Deep Purple type of riff, but with this modern, cool touch to it. So it's just a jammin', like, anthemic type one. But then you switch gears. The Depth of Self-Delusion is one of my favorites, and that has all that moody atmosphere like the Lunatic Soul stuff, but then it evolves into a classic Riverside track, 7.5 minutes long or whatever. So if you like your prog to be sometimes heavy, totally atmospheric, and maybe in that 7-minute range, man, this band is great for this stuff. Celebrity Touch is another jammin' one. It almost sounds like if Jethro Tull went super heavy. I think it's a synthesizer, but it almost sounds like some sort of a flute. But it just reminds me of something like an Aqualung type riff, but just really good, creative, catchy stuff. We Got Used to Us is a good, kind of a ballady one, but I like that. Feel Like Falling is almost like positive sounding. So in the midst of some of the darker atmospheric stuff on here, you've got some lighter stuff, and you've got some fun anthemic stuff, and it just has everything. And then another long one, Deprived. That's another good moody one. Kind of on the darker end of things, like the Depth of Self-Delusion. Escalator Shrine is over 12 minutes long, and that's, it's almost the last track, but it's just this big, epic slab of music that finishes so strong with this cool keyboard thing. It's probably the heaviest riff on the entire album, and Marius is humming over it. And then it finishes with Coda, which is like 1.5 minutes, but they just reprise the Feel Like Falling melody on that. So I love this album. I don't know where it ranks with everyone else, but this is one of my favorite albums. And when I did this ranking, I just once again was like, what are the albums I reach for all the time? And this one I reach for all the time. And then I think their first 2 albums are so classic, they had to be in at 3 and 4. This one also, Love Through in the Time Machine, has a bonus disc called Day Session, which has all these cool, strange soundscapes. It started here. Disc 2 is called Night Session, and it's got a 10-minute part 1, Night Session part 1, and an 11-minute part 2. So you get these cool, extra things on this album. So, man, I really dig this album. This is the band totally in their prime, as they always are, but just number 2, I've got their 5th album from 2013. I got Shrine of New Generation Slaves. And that leaves only one. I'm going back to the Reality Dream Trilogy. Pull this one up. But guess what? I love it so much, I actually do have it as a standalone. I've got Rapid Eye Movement, their 3rd album from 2007. So this was the first CD of theirs I was waiting for it to be released. And they did not disappoint at all. I think the opening track, Beyond the Eyelids, has some of their best progressive instrumental jamming. I don't think the vocals come in for 3.5 or 4 minutes. Love that song, one of my favorite songs. Rainbow Box is so quirky, detective style, something. It's the only song they've ever done quite like that. Panic Room, I think we heard earlier, that's just a really good, catchy one. Schizophrenic Prayer has cool rhythms. Parasomnia is this strange long one in the middle that goes all over the place. I think it's at least 8.5 minutes, if not longer. These 2 totally underrated and overlooked deep cut tracks. Through the Other Side, followed by Embryonic. They're both in the 3.5, less than 4 minute tracks, and they're both just acoustic stuff. I think the one just has a pulse beat to it at some point, or just a kick drum. So really no drums other than that. For Through the Other Side, just awesome acoustic playing, very atmospheric and melodic. Embryonic has no drums, and it's acoustic and just those two songs to me are just incredible, and they follow it with Cybernetic Pillow, which is one of my favorites. Another deep cut. I feel like this album is just full of underrated deep tracks, and it finishes with the big 10, 11, 12-minute song, Ultimate Trip. And so this got the, not that it got a bad rating, but it got the lowest rating on Prog Archives of their 7 studio albums. And I think people need to revisit this because it's just full of awesome underrated tracks. I mean, I don't find them underrated. Obviously, it clicks with me, but I think everything on here is just top-notch. For some reason, it gets forgotten because I guess the first two are so classic, and some of the stuff they've done since is considered classic. But this is, for me, this is... I knew this was my number one before I even ranked these, but I still revisited them, and I just was like, man, if I did a greatest hits, I'm pulling. What does this have? 9 awesome songs, and I'm pulling 7 of these. 7 of these for greatest hits. Also, like what they've been doing on a lot of these albums, this has a bonus disc as well. Instead of Beyond the Eyelids, you have Behind the Eyelids, so it's a complete remix. Lucid Dream 4 is an instrumental that connects with Reality Dream 2, and Reality Dream 3, which is a classic. So they've got Lucid Dream 4, which continues that. You got a remix of Panic Room. Back to the River is an awesome, like, dreary Pink Floyd instrumental where they summon the classic 4-note melody of Shine On You Crazy Diamond. It's very cool. And then Rapid Eye Movement, the song, which is just this weird, almost dance-like long song. It's got moments of it that jump out of nowhere and just blow you away with how cool they are. So to me, Rapid Eye Movement, their third album from 2007 and the third and final one to wrap up the Reality Dream trilogy, is my number one. So there you have it. That is ranking the 7 albums of Riverside. Let's real quickly recap. Coming in at number 7, their most recent album from 2018, I've got Wasteland. Number 6, their 6th album from 2015, I have Love, Fear, and the Time Machine. At number 5, I have their 4th album from 2009, I have Anno, Domini, High Definition. At number 4, I have their debut from 2003, I have Out of Myself. At number 3, I have their 2nd album from 2005, I have Second Life Syndrome. At number 2, I have, I don't know, what is this, their 5th album from 2013. I have Shrine of New Generation Slaves. And at number 1, I have their 3rd album from 2007. I have Rapid Eye Movement. I've got plenty of other things to show here too. So this whole box set has all this killer additional material that I think is, you know, just as of strong quality as the full lengths. It's got this EP called Voices in My Head. It came out, I think, in 2005, but before Second Life Syndrome, so it was the second thing they ever released, and it's just got excellent material on it. It's a little different from their regular stuff at the time, but Us is a cool, shorter one. Acronym Love, I think you can find live versions of that on some of their stuff. DNA versus Rednum or F.Rap, just a weird title, but it's like just very digital sounding. The Time I Was Daydreaming is just a beautiful song. He's just channeling Steven Wilson, Porcupine Tree on some of this stuff with just those lush, awesome melodies. Stuck Between is great, and then it finishes with 3 live tracks from the first album. So that's just totally worth checking out. Voices in My Head. Second Live Syndrome is they play 7 tracks from the first 2 albums live, and then they stick a song on here you're not going to find anywhere else. It's called The Piece Reflecting the Mental State of One of the Members of Our Band, which was a single of the B-side from the Conceiving You single from 2005. So you get on Second Live Syndrome from this Reality Dream Trilogy box, you get that extra track. And I think that was all of the additional material. Oh yeah, you also get Rapid Eye Movement too, so you get, I think I already have this, since I bought the deluxe edition of this, you get that second disc that was on here, you get that on here as well. I think that's right. Oh no, you actually get a few of those tracks, you get Rainbow Trip, so that's a mishmash of Rainbow Box as well, so that's the one thing they do add in here as well, so that is pretty cool. So that has some value there as well. So just lots of awesome odds and ends that this band has to go way beyond their 7 albums. This is their best EP. This came out in 2011. There was a 4-year gap between Anno Domini High Definition in 09 and Shrine of New Generation Slaves in 2013. So as a tight me over, they did this Memories in My Head, which sounds like classic Reality Dream era Lunatic Soul. It's just got 3 songs. Goodbye Sweet Innocence, which is over 10 minutes. Living in the Past, which is totally cool. And that's 11, almost 12 minutes. And then it finishes with Forgotten Land, which is almost 10 minutes long. So you just get 3 big long songs. It's like 33 minutes. Totally cool. Eye of the Soundscape came out in 2016 after Peter Grudzinski had passed. They just basically emptied the vaults of stuff that they had with him on it. So it's got, that Rapid Eye Movement song, but you got a 2016 remix of it. You got a new song called Shine. These are all soundscapes. Like, it's not quite Lunatic Soul, but it's some sort of like instrumental soundscape stuff that Peter and Michael Lepage and Marius were doing, in addition to Riverside proper material. So you have Where the River Flows, Shine. You have a remix of Rapid Eye Movement for 2016. Then they take, if I can find it here, they take Night Sessions Part 1 and 2 if you don't get the deluxe version like I got the deluxe version. If you didn't get that, you can get it on here because they've got them included. And then if you didn't get the deluxe version of Love, Fear, and the Time Machine, it's got the day session tracks that has all of those on here as well. What else? You got a new track, Sleepwalkers, that Rainbow Trip song. You've got a 2016 mix of that, and then it finishes with a long song called Eye of the Soundscape. So this is kind of cool. I don't know if it's essential, but it's kind of cool to hear. And certainly if you don't have the deluxe editions of those studio albums, you can find a lot of that stuff on here as well. This is Reality Dream, the DVD for back in the day. So you've got these performances from where it filmed in Poland. So this was filmed in Poland. You've got just tracks from those first 3 albums, Out of Myself, Second Life Syndrome, and Rapid Eye Movement. And then you've got live performances scattered around on the bonus features. Germany, Canada, more Germany, Holland, the main concert being in Poland. So this is cool. And related to that framed picture of the kid on the screen is the new one, which looks a little bit like that cover, and that's because this was the tour from that called Lost and Found Live in Tilburg, which is what we're listening to now. And it's pretty much the last performance you're going to find with Peter Grudzinski. But they're really on top of their game for this, and they're playing like 4 songs from Love, Fear, and the Time Machine. They're playing 4 from Shrine of New Generation Slaves. They're playing a couple from Anno Domini High Definition, and they're playing at least 1 from each of the first 3 albums from the Reality Dream era. So they're covering a little bit of everything on here. You've got the 2 CDs and the DVD to comprise it all. Pretty cool packaging. That was the classic lineup of the band right there. So I think that does it. They got, in my opinion, they've got 2 major concert, DVDs here. One after the first 3 albums, and then one after the 6th album. Then this box set just contains at least 2 EPs and or at least 3 different types of EPs in here. That's cool. This has a bunch of odds and ends and soundscapes, and then this is probably the best EP as well. So, what have I pulled up at least 7 more things. What do I, these two, and then the 3 things within here. So I think that's constitutes 7 more things. So Riverside have a lot of cool things and material there. So, well, I got through this pretty quickly. Oh, just to let you know how good they really are. I had this made a few years ago. If I can find them on here. They made my coffee thermos, my thermos of fame, my Prague one. So that lets you know, they've anytime they release anything, I'm the first, hopefully the first one to know, and I'm waiting. It's an auto purchase every time. So, but there you go. That covers the legendary Polish progressive metalers, rockers. I don't really know if they're metal, but I guess they have that element to their sound. But just Poland's finest. I'd been wanting to review them for some time now. Like I said, Would have reviewed him probably a month ago or at least 3 weeks ago, but I was waiting patiently for this because I wanted to show it off in the review. So it finally arrived, so it came in the mail today, so that's why I picked today to do this review of Riverside. So there you have it. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.
This track is called Saturate.
Did I do good?